He was asking whenever we were, when I was driving here, we were on the phone. He was like, I'm going to stop and buy an energy drink. And I was like, don't buy that shit. Joel's got the goods.
We have to find the deleted footage of the photo shoot that we did. You remember that? Like a year ago?
I remember the photo shoot.
Do you remember how it ended?
Were we snorting it?
You guys were doing like lines off, jump boxes.
It sounds like we were.
It was like a pretty good photo shoot. And then I think everybody had like equivalent to like more than 3 of them at one point, just from like, multiple takes. And Kelly and Katie were just like doing I don't know what they were doing. I've never seen lines done off of a box jump
workout,
before.
a workout box,
Okay, we haven't started yet, so I'm gonna kick this off, and then we'll talk. I'll introduce you guys.
Wait, we haven't started.
This is unfortunate. No, we're recording.
That's some good shit.
We're recording. That's good intro stuff. Get people's attention, and then we'll launch into it. But all right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Impossible Podcast. Today on the podcast, I have 2 of my good buddies, Brittan Morris and DJ Kilpatrick. I said his name right.
You got it right.
And today we're talking about their new film, Ice Cross, Life on the Edge, Ice Cross, the documentary. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Hell yeah. So we were talking, let's rewind real quick. Brittan, how did we meet? How'd you get into Ice Cross? What the hell are we talking about?
So, it's been, 5 years? 4 years?
Probably 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years since we met. I mean, I knew about the brand Impossible actually before we met, and I love what you're doing with it. And it kind of aligned with the sport that I was just getting into at the time, which was ice cross. It's the most insane sport no one's ever heard of. And we connected on that, and you were into it, and I was trying to get some momentum behind the sport and things going, and we just kind of kicked it all off. So
yeah,
we've been rolling with it ever since.
So how would you, for people who are just tuning in, they've seen some stuff on the channel before, but like, how would you describe ice cross to someone who's never heard of it before?
It is downhill ice skate racing, essentially motocross, but instead of a dirt bike and a dirt track, you're wearing hockey gear and the track's made of ice. So it's jumps and turns and you're skating down it with 4 other guys.
The dumbest thing you've ever seen. Why would you create a sport like that? But when you see it in person, it's a lot more intense than what he makes it out to be. He says it like it's normal. It's not normal, and the ice is not smooth. There's holes, there's cracks everywhere.
Oh, it's the worst ice you'll ever skate on in your entire life. It's brutal.
Yeah, and then when they're flying by you at 35 miles an hour, 4 guys going by you, and you hear the crack of the ice beneath their feet, you're just like, this is insane.
You're like, let's strap some blades to my feet and then just go. Like, how fast do you go going downhill?
I think the fastest anyone's ever gone is like just over 50 miles an hour. A normal race is anywhere between 30 and 40 miles an hour, the speed that you reach. But I mean, yeah, you can get going fast. The biggest thing though is when you launch in the air. I remember the first time it was like a 20-foot double that I had to clear in my first ever race. And I was just watching people soar over this thing, and I was like, this doesn't compute in my brain. I've always played flat ice hockey, and the rush that I got the first time I sent it, I mean, I ate shit, but that feeling that I had flying through the air, lose all control of my limbs, and then crash. You can't recreate it.
So the course that you're actually doing it's not quite like a bobsled. It's like a bobsled run extended, right? Like that's like kind of it's a manicured racetrack.
Yeah, it's
down
wider.
A ski mountain.
Yeah, it's wider. It has boards built in, and then all the features, whether they be stair steps, jumps, rollers, a lot of those. And yeah, I mean, every track is different, and they've come up with some pretty ridiculous obstacles in there.
Yeah.
That's actually where it came from. Is the idea came from bobsledding, and they went down it, and they were like, okay, this is possible. And
went down it on skates. Yeah,
went down it on skates, and then the creator,
Stal.
Golly, I'm from Mississippi. So Stal they get a bunch of ice from a local fish market.
Yeah.
And they really didn't even know how to make the ice. So they had a whole track that smelled like fish. And Stal, the creator, was the first one to go down and actually broke his collarbone the first time he went down, and still thought it was a good idea to create a sport.
There's pretty much an injury like that still to this day at every race I go to. Someone breaks something, dislocates something, gets a concussion. I mean, one race we were at in Italy, I think 4 people had like career or season-ending injuries. Broken back was one of them. I mean, people are getting hurt quite often.
When did Stow do that?
This is about 20 years ago.
Yeah, 2000.
Yeah, early 2000s, about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Was the first, and he was with Red Bull. And he was working with Red Bull whenever he did it, and then it kind of became a Red Bull sport, and Red Bull was there since like the inception of it. So they kind of kept that relationship going until it was time to part ways, and now Red Bull is no longer attached to it.
It was created in 2000. Red Bull was with the sport for 20 years.
Yep.
COVID hit.
Yep.
They separated.
Got it. Cool. And so you guys decided to make a film about that. And Brittan, you're kind of like the athlete. I've actually seen the film yet, so I don't know. You guys tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
But Brittan, just so the viewers know, like Brittan is one of the main athletes in the sport, and DJ is one of the main producers of the film.
Yeah. So we co-directed, co-wrote a lot of things together, but during the shooting of it, we wanted Brittan to stay in character, so to speak.
Yeah.
Stay an athlete, keep doing what you got to do. But at night, we would come together and make sure we're still going down the same path that we originally wanted to.
Yeah.
But it was nothing but a team venture from the beginning, and we were the backbones of it, but we had a heck of a lot of help and support throughout the way, which you were a big part of that as well.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Impossible was our big sponsor, first sponsor that jumped on board, and we more than appreciate that.
There you go.
Showed some belief in it, and yeah.
So what was the goal with the movie? Like, because this is one of those things. Like, it's okay. You've been doing the sport for a while. Like, we've talked a little bit about that, but like, why do a movie? Why Ice Cross? Why now?
I mean, the sport is in a place where it needs something like this to, I feel like, revive it. We want to get eyes to the sport. We want people to watch it. We want people to see how exciting it is. And it just wasn't getting the traction that we thought it deserved. And ever since I got into the sport, I was doing stuff like trying to get things going, doing interviews in Fenway. And DJ was actually there for that, my first big race.
We're going to talk about that one.
And our buddy Josh, who was actually a videographer on the film, Josh has worked with him before. Him and I did like a vlog style thing. DJ was there for that too, on the road trip to Mount Delac. And then you and I did some things with the Luxes, who are also videographers on the film. And we shot some kind of short series stuff. That was the race in Italy, was like kind of the big
one. Yeah.
The big one of that. And so I just always was trying to get something going with it. And then it was actually DJ's idea to do the documentary film. He was living with a buddy of ours named Chase Cooker, who has a production company called Lunar Door. And they had this, mountain biking, cross country mountain biking.
Yeah, there's a big
but not
race.
like extreme downhill mountain biking, like literally just like riding a bike across. But somehow this film we watch it for the first time whenever we premiere our film, and it's insane. But he was working on that, and DJ was like, "That's cool, but I got something a little more badass." And he showed him the sport, and then it kind of all just started rolling from there.
Dude, that's actually a good point. It's like, we can talk all we want about Ice Cross, but it's probably easier just to like show people what we're dealing with. Justin, could you maybe pull up that first trailer?
Ice Cross to me is controlled chaos on ice, and there's nothing like it.
5-second warning!
As soon as you get into the gate and that 5-second warning is called, like everything goes silent. It's probably the most peaceful time you'll ever experience in life.
Stop!
There's no buddy thing out there, Yeah, it's war out there.
Coming through all that, and then working through with what I've dealt with, I'd probably have to say that Ice Cross has probably saved my life.
Oh my goodness!
Let's go.
Who needs Impossible Energy? when you got
every
that?
time.
Holy
Hey,
shit.
speaking of Impossible Energy, I need some right now.
I
So,
just felt like I drank some.
tell me about this. Is a new flavor you guys have, or
Yeah. So have you tried that yet or no? I can't tell you took a sip.
I have not taken.
Anyway,
a sip.
so I talked about this on the last episode, but we reformulated everything from like scratch. We have like an entire new flavor system, which has allowed us to do like a lot more different types of flavors. But these are kind of pre-release beta testing flavors. That's blue raspberry. You've got
Blue Raz.
I think blue raspberry is going to be.
I feel like this is a moment.
Here we go.
Yeah.
The blue
We'll-
Raz. Here it comes.
Please don't
This is,
say that.
yeah, this is way too. Yeah.
Everything sounds different when you have the headphones on. Much more intimate.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
You said it was going to look like it should taste,
Yeah.
and it's going to taste like it should taste.
Yeah.
So
I can try it.
We fixed a bunch of things. Like
yeah,
it was.
it's not too strong. It's like not too blue raspberry,
No.
but it's just enough
Oh yeah.
to wet your
You know what it
whistle.
reminds me of? Remember those? Well, they weren't blow pops. But they had like a bigger version, like the mega pops,
like Otter Pops,
and they
No,
had
no.
they had the gum inside, and it was they had a blue raspberry flavor, and it tastes like that.
Okay.
I don't know
which
what you're
is-
talking about.
I don't,
You
I don't
don't
know that
know?
either.
The
Must-
mega pops.
That must be a '90s baby thing because I'm not a '90s baby.
What year?
I'm 86.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What year are
okay.
you?
87.
87.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Makes more sense.
Yeah.
We're more on the same page.
Yeah.
than
We
them.
just
we
the
don't
best generation.
we don't skate down ice.
Yeah.
Y'all were.
We encourage people to make bad decisions.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
Laugh at them
We'll
when they
make sure that we
get
catch
season
it on
ending.
camera
Yeah.
so that we can talk about it later.
That's funny.
But yeah, back to the trailer. Didn't mean to distract. Yeah, I get fired up every time I watch that thing.
Yeah.
Even though I've seen it probably 1,000 times.
At least.
How
at least.
long is the movie? It's a feature length movie,
It's
right?
it's an hour and 33 minutes long
Okay.
from beginning to end. And you know, we're in talks with some distribution companies and things like that, and we may edit some things on there, which may cut it down a little bit. We haven't come to a decision on that
It's-
yet, but
It's a possibility depending on who we decide to go with.
Yeah.
We'll see.
What's the story arc? Is it following the season? Is it following the athletes? What
Starts with, so the idea is, I mean, nobody knows about this sport.
Yep.
That's what we have on the poster. It's the most insane sport you've never heard of. So the first thing you got to figure out is what the hell is ice cross.
Yep.
So we introduce people to ice cross, tell them about the story of the sport itself, what happened with Red Bull, how the marriage was great, but eventually, you separate, you grow apart sometimes. And then what happened with COVID, how the sport kind of went on a downward trajectory, and that, the athletes are the ones keeping this sport alive now. So the story switches gears towards 4 athletes that we decided to follow and their journeys throughout their careers, but also the season in 2023.
And how many races were you guys at in 2023?
So we were at 5. There
Okay.
were 7 total races, and we actually Marco Delago, former world champion 2014 in ice cross. He's such a huge ambassador for the sport. He actually videoed a lot at France and Austria,
Okay.
which gave us some footage for that, so that we were able to reference it at certain points. But we start off the film first, pretty much after we introduce the sport. We start off with Brittan in the first race at Mont de Lac.
Okay. And so people know how like just the season works. Like how does the scoring work on a per race and then season overall?
yeah.
Like-
So each race is worth 250 points total for this last season. Sometimes there are races that are worth 500, but last season it was just all 250s. But the season that we filmed, which was the season prior, there was a season-ending championship race that was 500, and that was in Sony, Finland. So every race leading up to it, total of 250 points. First place gets 250 points, and then they go down from there. You get second, you get a little bit less points, so on and so forth. So it's all about a point accumulation, but they only use 3 races. So it's your top 3 races count towards that point accumulation, and then whoever gets the most points at the end of the season wins the world championship.
Gotcha. So you're like top grading like your performance overall.
Exactly.
Okay.
And also just because this sport is in a place where there's races all over the world, and some of them are hard to get to, especially like athletes that are, living in Europe hard to get to North America and vice versa. So they do that to kind of make it more fair. That way, someone doesn't just come and race all 7 races and do kind of mediocre, and then they're like, well, this guy only raced 4 races and he did way better, but because he did 7 races, he got more points. Yep. So they do it for that reason as well.
Yeah. Speaking of places that are hard to get to, do you want to talk about, I think it was the year before when, before all the Russia stuff popped up.
Oh, Russia.
Do you want to talk about how, because I think we filmed one of the events in Italy the year before with you, right?
It was the same year.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh yeah, I'm coming home, but I got to make a stop. Okay. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So there was there was a race in Russia, and I'd never been to Russia before. And
this is 2022.
Yeah.
Okay. Just so people know.
Yeah. I think
I think
it was 2022.
Yeah.
So there's this race in Russia, and it's in Moscow at a place called Patriot Park, which is a Russian military base. And they have this year-round track on it that the athletes rollerblade on in the summer, and then they ice cross in the winter. And it's huge. It's an awesome track. And so me and my buddy Jack Schramm were contemplating going to this race, and there was a lot of talk and stuff about a war breaking out and Russia invading Ukraine. It hadn't happened yet, and we actually talked to one of his buddies that he lived in Bali with, and he was like, man, they've been talking about invading Ukraine for 5 years. Like, they're not all this stuff. They're not going to do it. So last minute we go and we take our passports in, and we find out if we're even allowed to get it on this athlete visa. So we get approved the day before we're supposed to leave for Russia. So we're like, we got approved. We're doing it. We go to Russia. We get to Russia on a Wednesday night, and then start training on the track and everything. It's unreal. We're like, this was the best decision we've ever made. So glad we did it. All these other people that decided not to go were like, they're going to be, kicking themselves in the ass for this. And then Friday comes around, and we're doing time trials, and then we get the news that Russia invaded Ukraine and the war has officially started. So and
you get that news on a Russian military base.
we get it there in Russia, Patriot Park, and of course, get a lot of phone calls, texts, and DMs of like, because it's very known that we're in Russia. We're posting stuff like, hey, we're in Russia doing this race and everything. And of course, like my mom is like, you need to leave immediately. Right. And we're like, we're already here. DJ was like, you need to leave immediately. Yeah. But we decided that, we're flying out on Sunday. We're here already. We're going to do the race. What's the worst that could happen? A lot of bad things could happen, by the way.
Just war.
So yeah, it's just war. It's just war. And it's the most ridiculous thing too, because at the top of this track, it's very, very high up, built in scaffolding on a Russian military base. And we're looking out, and we hear like they're testing bombs. Like, we hear bombs going off. There's tanks. There's all kinds of military personnel.
What's the worst that could happen?
So
probably nothing.
So Jack and I, we decide to stay, and we do the race. It was unreal event. And there was a lot of stuff that went on during the race, people saying peace, not war. Like, there was a lot of political things that were done. I think Jack and I may have skated down the track with an American flag. I don't know, probably not the smartest thing whenever we're looking back, but it was.
This was after they invaded.
Yeah.
This was
on
this was
a
after.
Russian military base.
We had the support of the Russian riders, though. They weren't for the war. They're not for the war. So it was a unifying thing.
So again, what's the worst that could happen?
So then
they said I could do it.
Yeah. So we race on Saturday. The race finishes up. We go out and we party with the Russian athletes. The bars never close there. It's 5 a.m. We're doing shots that are on fire. I remember this one Russian orders all these shots, and they light them on fire. And I'm sure you guys have done shots that you light on fire here in the States. And what do? You blow the flame out, and then you drink the shot, right? So this Russian, take this shot. So I grab the shot and I blow the flame, and he goes, no, drink fire. And I was like, I'm not gonna drink the fire. Like that's dumb. And he goes, pussy. And he grabs it on fire, literally flame, and just opens his mouth and swallows it. And I was like, Russians are just built different. I was like, so we hang out, we party. Our flight's at 8 a.m. And also to backtrack a little bit, the flight situation was an absolute nightmare because if you guys remember, all American companies like pulled everything out of Russia as soon as they invaded. They're like, we're not doing business with Russia.
It was like 2 days later, right? Like,
yes.
So it was like they invaded and you're like, no, I'm good. I'm good on this Russian base. I'm going to be fine. I'll just get on next flight home. And then you're out doing shots. And that's like if I remember the timeline right, you're doing shots and they're basically, that's when like the embargoes start happening and we start canceling all the flights.
Yeah. It's done. But can we back up for a second? You thought it was okay to go there, skate down an ice cross track with an American flag as the war has begun, but it's not okay to drink a shot that's on fire.
Yeah.
Calculated risk, DJ. Calculated risks.
He's bad at math, but he's calculated risk. Not well, but it's calculated.
But so our flights get canceled.
Yeah.
And I find out about it and we're trying to figure it out. My parents helped out a lot and they like found us a flight. We had to go like, I think to Dubai or to
UAE or something.
Yeah, somewhere wild and then we had to get a connecting flight to like Amsterdam and then flew to New York and then I got a flight. And so it was this whole rigmarole of like getting flights to get the hell out of there.
Because they basically canceled, from what I remember, flights to all like Western friendly countries, minus like places Russia had alliances to, whereas like UAE, China,
basically
that type of stuff. Yeah.
NATO was canceled.
Yes. And any North American owned airlines gone. And which we were booked. I think we were booked on Delta. I can't remember which one it was. So all of those gone. So it was a mad scramble to find it. We found a flight, get to the airport. My buddy Jack, he's a smart one. He's sober. He doesn't drink alcohol. And so he drives us to the airport. I'm hammered. And there's literally he took a video of me. We had to wait so long when we returned the rental car that I passed out on top of my ice cross bag in a parking garage outside of the car. And he took a picture and he's like sent it to my dad and he was like, your son's really worried about the situations that's going on over here. So just to top this all off, we get into the airport and everywhere we traveled during that year, this is only a year and a half or so, or 2 years. Can't exactly remember the timeline after COVID. So you still had to fly with all of the proof of vaccination and your test and everything. This was all still going on. So we get there and we're standing in line at the airport and Jack
the Russian airport,
and Jack pulls out his paperwork and I was like, oh shit, like I totally forgot that we had to do that to get on the flight. We had to have, showing that you got the COVID test and that you're negative. And so I was like, I had been forging these documents the entire trip. I travel all around Europe. I had a fake, I never got vaccinated. So I had a fake vaccination card that I was using, and don't cancel me. I had a fake vaccination card and I would just forge the negative thing and change it to my name based on other people that had it. So I'm doing this the entire time. And
calculated risk.
Yeah.
Calculated risk.
So we're in line at the airport in Russia. War's going on. I forget about this. I take a picture. Jack has a piece of paper that had been folded up, right? And he had COVID, a month or so before this season started. And back then that was something that you could say like, oh, I had COVID. So the doctor shows that I had COVID. Now I have the antibodies, blah, blah, blah. So he had this document. So I took a picture of this document on like my Instagram story. And then I edited the information to change it to my name. And then that's what I saved it. And then that's what I showed them. But it is a folded piece of paper, and the editing stuff on Instagram is good, but it's not that good to match the colors.
It's in like the Comic Sans font.
Yes. So I show it to them and they're looking at it. They actually they call a bunch of, And Jack at this point is like, I'm going away from you. He's like, I am going to another line. He's like, you're getting stuck here and I'm leaving.
Every man for himself.
And so they start calling all these people over. And at this point, I was like, oh, this isn't looking good for me. I may have fucked up. I was starting to like rationalize all the bad decisions that I had made. And I was like, you need to stop rationalizing these things because you fucked up. So they call these people over. They're looking at these documents. They're talking to each other in Russian. Then one guy comes and says, you need to step to the side of the line. And they took my my card, not the picture that I forged, but my fake vaccination card. And they took it and they were like, hey, we have to go and run this in the back. And I was like, hey, like, I'm not comfortable with you taking that. And I kind of started to make a scene and they was like, we're taking it. And I was like, you can take it. Go ahead. So they take it. They come back. Somehow they are like, you're fine. You're good to go through. And we get through and we get on our flight and we fly back to America. And everything was good, just like I knew it would be. So everyone was freaking out.
Everything always works out.
Everything always
somehow the COVID forgery is the least sketchy part of that entire story.
It really is. It's like it really is.
They're like, please get out of here before something bad happens.
You want to hear the craziest thing though? Like everyone talks about like when we were in Russia and how, you know, they were worried for our safety and all this stuff. The number one thing that I thought was going to happen, that I was worried for actually like my well-being, I thought, and this is a no shit thought, I thought that the US government was going to find out that 2 American athletes had access to a Russian military base and they were going to put a hood over our heads, kidnap us, and then tell us like we have to wear wires and cameras and go and find out evidence because we have access. Like you literally come up and we have access to a military base that no one else has access to. And that was my biggest concern. I was like, the CIA, the US government is going to find out about us and they're going to use us.
Some CIA Russian military
to get information.
And that's totally not happening.
That's my biggest. Yeah, the tell-all book comes out in 10 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, what did the US say when you came back? Because they always ask whenever you come back, you're like, hey, what countries you visited?
Yeah.
Where were you? Why were you maybe in Russia on a military base?
I mean, we just told them we were there for. They did ask, and it was the entire. I mean, during COVID and everything too. That like they just question you and question you and question you. But with that one in particular, when they found out we were in Russia, it was a longer interview than normal, and we were literally just like, we were racing. We're athletes. We went over there before the war started. We didn't know anything about it, and then it just so happened to pop off. You know, right whenever we were over there.
Here we have proof.
I think that's a technical term for war starting.
Yeah.
Popping off.
Popping off. Yeah.
We have proof. Here's a picture of us skating down a track with an American flag.
Yeah.
We were full American over there.
Yeah, I'm supporting the greatest country in the world. So looking back, maybe not the best decision, but I mean, I would have done the same thing having known, you know, everything that went on. I still would have gone. That's kind of how, I mean, that's hence the name of the film, Life on the Edge. I mean, that's kind of how I live my life. It's how DJ lives his life, how Jack lives his life. I think you do the same thing. I mean, you have a brand Impossible. You live the impossible. You do the impossible. You encourage people to do the impossible. Some would say, hey, maybe not the best idea. We say, we're going to go for it. So
fuck it.
If you
that's right.
If you would have gotten kidnapped, then we would only have to capture like 2 more. Like what's the guy's name? He's like the Merchant of Death.
The Merchant of Death.
And we'd have to get 2 more of those guys to exchange for
I
you
don't
and Jack.
I don't think the US government would have traded anything for Jack and I.
No.
I don't think we were.
Is Jack American?
He's American. He's dual citizenship.
Okay.
He's Canadian American, but yeah.
So we could go like halvesies.
Yeah. But he's like, Canada and US kind of go together to get him back. He probably would have made it back. I don't think that I would have. But
what do you think? What do you think the going rate for one Brittan is? I don't know.
The Merchant of Death. I mean, that's
pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Cool name.
Okay, I will say this. I guess that was Brittany Griner.
Yeah.
So is she WNBA or college basketball?
WNBA.
So a WNBA athlete got the Merchant of Death. So I feel like I would get something pretty high.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what they got,
that's
for her,
the standard.
Do you guys have nicknames in the sport?
I mean, everyone calls me Molt Mike.
But that's like a character you do, right?
Yeah.
But do people have like different? Because we could like elevate your status by just coming up with like Death on Blades. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of hockey guys in the sport. and hockey guys usually go by their last name with a Y.
Okay.
So a lot of people just call each other by their last name, but
there's a few guys that do have, even in the film, Aussie Crasher is a nickname. Luke Webb nickname is Aussie Crasher because he's from Australia and he crashes a lot.
Yeah.
So.
we call Shram Daddy the rooted athlete. His brand rooted athlete. He's a very all natural kind of guy, and Rob, another featured athlete in the film, he went viral for dunking a basketball on ice skates. If you haven't seen the video, it's the most insane thing, and he does it now all the time, and it just makes it look way too easy. But he flies through the air 30 feet and dunks a basketball.
He's in Minnesota, right?
No,
he's in Ottawa.
Okay.
He's Canadian. He's
like
Canadian.
North Minnesota.
So there's some nicknames. What was Shane Renault's? Shane Renault. I can't think right now, but Shane Renault had a pretty good. Everyone calls him something. He has a pretty good nickname. Half Speed, Matt Johnson. Half Speed.
Yeah.
So
is Rob's stuff mostly on Instagram?
Yeah.
Is there a way? Sorry, Justin, I didn't tell you about this. I didn't even think about this before, but can we pull up like one of his? It's Rob Warling.
Yeah, Rob Warling 14, I think, is his Instagram.
WO.
He makes awesome content.
Pick that first one.
Oh yeah. Oh. And that was the very first. That started it all off. Boom, man.
Yeah, he's a videographer as well, so he's got some different views of that. Does it in slow motion.
Yeah, but I mean, look at all his content. You check out his page. He's someone that is doing a lot of things for the sport of ice cross.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. It's awesome to see athletes like this doing these types of things. I mean, he's jumping over another guy in this video. I mean, and he is spoiler alert, he is like one of the best racers. He's a top performer in pretty much every season.
Yeah,
so,
a younger guy. I think he's 26 now. Working on 27.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
What's
but he's been in the sport longer than me. That's the crazy thing.
What are the typical like? We talked about this before, but what are the typical like body types, or what types of athletes do it? Because it's, if I think hockey, I think like bigger hockey dudes.
Yeah.
But what's the ideal kind of breakdown for a lot of racers that are trying to get into this?
Yeah, actually, most of the athletes are around our size, my size. I mean, he's the 5'7" to 5'9", 5'10" range, 160 to 180 pounds. That's like most of the athletes are around there. And then you have like the Rob Warling, who's 6'4", 6 foot something, and very, very lean and lanky, and he does really well. So there's not necessarily a set body type, but most of the guys I would say are failed hockey players, and usually that runs in the realm of not being quite as big and then excelling at something different in ice skating in this sport.
And you've tried competing at different weights, right?
I have.
And how'd that go?
So I had the strategy when after my first like year or two, kind of like the first year or two, I wouldn't really even consider myself like a competitive athlete in the sport. I was just like trying to get my bearings. A lot of athletes would probably say the same thing, getting into ice cross, because it's so different than anything that you ever do. But once I got my bearings about me, I started like really training for it, and I was like, I need to be bigger. I need to be stronger and more powerful, because so much of this sport is like your starts are very important. How you land and get speed like on the landing, and been like bodying up against people. There's a lot of contact. So I was like, I need to be big. I need to be powerful. So I did all my training for that, and I put on a lot of weight, and it just absolutely wrecked my body, because I was doing all this heavy squatting and, heavy sled pushes and very explosive, powerful things. And then I went right into my season. So I had no real time to give my joints a break. And the sport is so rough on your body. And it just destroyed me. And then so ever since that season, which I think was 2 years ago, I completely changed my training for it. I'm much lighter whenever I race. I do the most boring preseason training you could possibly imagine. It's all like knees over toe and rehab stuff. Nothing like cool that you want to see. Like nothing that I want to do. I want to lift heavy and push sleds and do that type of stuff. but I'm doing this like really boring rehab type stuff just to make sure that my joints are as strong and durable as they can possibly be before they go and take that beating.
The knees over toes stuff is the most infuriating workout programming of all time because it's literally like raise your toes.
Yeah.
Raise your toes. Now do
So
like
it's
the
so
calf
meticulous.
raises, I understand. Okay, whatever. But
The
like
tibialis anterior
Yeah,
lifts,
you're
you
just
know,
doing
like
that.
going up.
And the worst part is it works.
Yeah.
It's infuriating.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is walking backwards. That's the thing I'm missing.
It's the slowest, like you're dragging a not even that heavy of a tire backwards.
Yeah,
do that 3 times a week.
Yeah, it works you mentally more than
Are
physically.
you doing like a curtsy squat with your foot, the Patrick step or whatever
Yes,
that is?
yeah.
And you're just like, that's what I've been missing.
Yeah, we were doing that programming for a while at my gym, Atomic,
Yeah.
and I remember you're just
well-
like, this what is this? It's working.
Well, I messed up my leg too, and then I was like, it kept coming back, and it was this weird kind of like freak thing. And then I was just like, okay, I'm gonna sit down, and I'm just gonna fix it. And I did knees over toes for about 6 weeks, completely fine. And I was pissed.
Yeah,
I was like, oh,
same thing. I mean,
Like-
DJ's got messed up knees, and
Yeah,
he likes to blame me for his messed up knee, but
that's valid.
I don't even
That
want to
was
know. I don't even want to know.
it was night ops.
Okay.
You remember the challenge race night ops? Yeah. So
Let me
DJ.
preface: I'm not a runner. I'm a sprinter. I can sprint short distances all day long. But this guy thought he would take somebody that has not been training to run and go run a lot. And what would we run? 10 miles?
yeah, about 10 miles.
Yeah. So 10 miles and a few homeless guys cheering my name on the sideline later. I've still got a busted knee.
Sounds like you need to do knees over
Knees
toes.
over
Yeah.
toes.
Use promo code impossible for
Yeah. So I did. I did a lot of. I got into Atomic with
Yeah.
him and did a lot of knees over toe stuff. A lot of walking backwards with a tire sled,
Yeah.
and it has helped a ton, tremendously. So it does. It is infuriating. It's so meticulous and just slow movements, and it works you mentally more than it does physically.
Yeah.
But it freaking works.
What do you do in the off season? Do you do fun like lifts? Do you just kind of do like maintenance coming back, or like what's the protocol between because ice cross runs 3 months basically, depending on kind of how many races you do?
Yeah, 2 months, maybe a little bit longer sometimes. Yeah, so my training goes back. Well, the first month it's kind of just like getting my body back to normal. It's pretty broken. The sport is rough, so it's pretty broken. And I just do like kind of a little bit of maintenance stuff, not too heavy a lifting or anything like that. And then whenever my body's feeling better, I start just doing like hypertrophy, just all bodybuilding, looking good stuff. Because I lose a lot of weight during the season whenever we're traveling. It's 2 months of travel. I pretty much stay gone the entire time, and so I lose quite a bit of weight. So I want to put on some size and everything. So that's currently what I'm doing, just doing hypertrophy and the fun lifting. I mean, this is what everyone wants to do. You just lift to look good, and yeah. So that's what I'm doing right now. And then it kind of tapers off, and then I slowly start skating again. I take like a month or 2 off from hockey. I don't skate or anything after the season. So in about a month or so, I'll start incorporating skating again. I'll start rollerblading again and getting out there, and then my training will start to mix up a little bit. But
How much weight do you lose in a season?
I've lost 15 pounds in a season. Yeah. So I started out the season at 170 and actually probably a little bit more than 50 pounds. Came out around 152. So yeah. And now I'm back up. I'm like at 165 right now. So I'm getting back up to where I want to be, like walking around weight.
And you got to think too, he's traveling for a month and a half, 30 to 45 days without being home. And, you're in makeshift cabins and not getting many workouts in and just burning a lot of calories and not able to eat as much, especially overseas. Overseas eating is not the same as US eating.
That's true. And we are balling on a budget whenever we're traveling. So it's not like we're eating at the nicest places and as often as we would like to.
Right.
And when you light the shots on fire, they burn more calories. So
that's true. That's true.
It's common. I was wondering, Justin, could you pull up the Dolomites video? I want to show people like a little bit more of the sport. So this is the one that we did. This is right before you went to Russia.
This is right
before you. Yeah.
When I met the Lucases, and what a find those guys were.
Yeah.
I don't know how you came across them, but man, are they just incredible.
Two of my favorite human beings.
Yeah, so fun to work with, and the shots that they can get, and they'll do anything for the shot.
Yeah, two hungry individuals that just want to create something great.
Yeah,
and that's what they do.
So scared me. I've watched it. I scared.
So ice cross is an ever-changing and unpredictable sport, and this weekend here in Italy is a good example of that. So first day, we had a good practice, good weather, everything was great. Second day, too hot, ice was melting, we couldn't practice on it. Day 3, we got one run in, we had to do it at like 6 in the morning. And then today, too foggy, practice canceled again. Ice is in decent condition, it's a little slushy, but we just can't see shit. So right now we're just kind of scoping things out. There's Jack Daddy. 4 or 5 hours, hopefully the fog clears up. That's this sport though, hurry up and wait. Things are always changing.
Adapt or die.
That's what you don't want. This sport involves degree of risk. It's a small degree of risk. Yeah, this was the race where like 4 athletes completely ruined themselves. Broken back, broken ankle, dislocated shoulder. And it wasn't even that crazy of a track. It was just the speeds that you would get going on. I'll show this flag all day long.
Work on.
I like America, if you can't tell from the stories, from the videos.
If there's a chance to show the American flag,
yeah,
he'll show it.
Even when maybe sometimes you shouldn't.
Even when you should. Like on a Russian military base.
There's Snooze. That was our fancy locker room right there. Hey. Possible. Jack envisioning his races. Oh, that was a cool setup. What a cool spot to race. They had to do the time trials at night at this race, and they didn't have any lighting or anything, so they did it all by flame. They put these torches all down the track, and it was wild. One guy crashed, flew off the track into the fire and burned his jersey all up.
That's sick.
Yeah, a little bit of a liability, I guess.
But it's cool.
Yeah, but it looks cool.
Calculated risk.
Yeah, I was talking to my dad the other day, and he wants me to. I think he was telling me that I should. Were you part of this conversation? He was like, "You need to jump through a ring of fire." You part of that conversation? Like set it up where there's like a ring of fire, and then we hit a jump, and then go through the ring of fire.
Keep in mind that
during a race.
Yeah. Keep in mind that I told Brittan's dad when he was in Italy that he should not go to Russia. So I'm keeping up with what's going on. I'm like, hey, when he goes to Russia, they're gonna invade. It's gonna happen. And his dad was like, he's his own man. He'll do what he wants. That was it was like a 1-sentence response. I was like, okay, he's worried.
That's my dad's always let me make my decisions.
He makes his own decisions.
No matter how
he gets stuck over there, it's on him.
No matter. That being said, so my dad's on SWAT and been in law enforcement his entire life, and he has a lot of buddies that were ready to extract me and Jack from Russia. Yeah. They were talking about how they were going to get over there, how they were going to get us out. They had this his buddy Aaron, a good friend of ours. He had this whole plan of like where they're going to fly out and how they're going to get us out of Russia. So regardless if the U.S. government wanted me back anyways, I think I would have gotten back. Would have made it.
That sounds like a mission to Tim Kennedy.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, I'm going over. I'm like, nobody asked you to, Tim.
Yeah.
He's going anywhere. He's like, put me in, coach. I'm ready.
I asked him to.
Yeah.
TK, please come save me.
He's like, I'm already here.
He's like, too late.
He takes off a helmet.
He's been racing.
Yeah.
I've just been waiting for you to say my name.
Yeah.
How much have we got left of this video?
This one's 7
Oh,
minutes.
wow.
Yeah,
Okay, so it's longer.
this is the long episode.
Yeah.
How did this end up? I forgot.
I've
watched this several times. And it's
Do you really want to know? Do you want us to spoil
yeah,
it?
he gets messed up, right?
Yeah.
I
DQs.
false started.
Yeah, that's
I false
anticlimactic.
started. Yeah.
It's a great video though,
Yeah.
before the race started.
Everybody else did a great job. Crushed it, actually.
I remember Lucas being like, "You're so good whenever camera's not on you."
That's funny.
He's like, "You skate so good and camera's not on you."
Which one said that?
L1.
L1.
L1. Yeah.
We nicknamed them L1 and L2
Yeah.
so that we could distinguish.
Yeah. They're both named Lucas.
Yeah. That's fun.
Not saying one's better than the other. Just
No,
saying.
but
No,
we have a primary Lucas, and then we had the secondary Lucas.
Yeah.
So that's actually
No, we
L2, we
would
like you too.
we would change their names though whenever we were filming. If one of them did something like fucked up something or one of the, we would start calling them L2
Oh,
and then
that's
L1.
All right. Now you're L2.
Yeah, now
you're
you're
no
L2.
longer
Yeah.
L1.
Just keep a leaderboard.
So it did,
so
it
at all times.
did become a bit
A
of a
little bit
ranking
competition.
system. Yeah.
That's fun.
I'm L1 now.
Yeah.
So what's the game plan with the film then? So like the film is shot.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
primary. You know, all the photography's done. The editing's done. You debuted it at a
Film festival.
yeah. So,
Mammoth
So,
Film
yeah, so
Festival.
we'll back up to that, I guess. Mammoth Film Festival in Mammoth Lakes, California. We were trying to finish the film, and if you don't know, post production with films is absolutely insane.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
I'm aware.
I would say for everybody in the audience, like if you
yeah.
don't know, it's absolutely insane. When they say that you're always going to need more money, you're always going to need more money. And we were absolutely balling on a budget, learning new skills along the way. So that, and me and him have never written anything for a film. We've never directed. We've never co-produced anything. I did a short film with my friend Chase that helped us with this, but it was all we created the poster. We didn't know how to create a poster.
Yeah.
So it's just constantly putting yourself in an uncomfortable space to, having faith that you can do the impossible
Yeah.
throughout, no pun intended, throughout the journey. And so Mammoth Film Festival had a deadline for us to meet, and we were not going to meet that deadline. I was like, Brittan, this is not happening.
It was also ahead of the original deadline that we had for the film. I mean, it's like we didn't know we were going to get into this film. Honestly, we didn't think we were going to get in. I mean, we don't, like I said, we didn't know we were doing anything.
we had
And
no
so
clue.
we learned as we went along, and we got accepted in this film festival. We're like, oh shit, we gotta move now. So
Yeah. We got accepted in off of 30-minute first cut off of, and they said they needed to see the whole thing before they even accepted us. So the fact that they even accepted us was amazing. I was like, hey, Christmas Day, wasn't it?
it was.
Christmas Day, I texted him, I was like, hey, we got in. So I don't know how.
Yeah.
No clue how.
We talked to the judges, like, again, Derek Waters, I think is his full name, the host of That Drunk History. He was one of the judges. And so they're the ones that watch the films that are being submitted to the film festival and everything. And they said they saw the potential for the story, and it was something so unique in a sport that was so cool, but not known about. And they're like, it is the perfect storm for something incredible. And which is why they accepted us. And
They were excited to see what we could do. And
I think we delivered.
Yeah, they just seemed to have faith, just as much faith in us as we had in ourselves.
Yeah.
Which kind of worked out. But we didn't completely finish the film until probably 2 weeks before we had to show it.
Yeah.
So it was literally to the last day. The last month and a half, it was every day, balls to the wall.
Yeah.
Just do as much as we could do.
I remember DJ was holding down the fort here, and I was traveling and racing for this last season. And obviously we're on different schedules because I'm over in Europe and everything. And I remember there was a week to a week and a half point where I probably got a total of like 10 hours of sleep in that week and a half, because we were just constantly on the phone with each other and with our editor Lucas, and just going over everything. And then I decided, I was like, I can't do the next 2 races because like I'm not sleeping. I was like, I can't. There's just no way. The priority is the film. And so unfortunately I missed a couple of the races this last season, but it had to be done for the film to be completed, and it was well worth it. But
two things on that. One of the things that's interesting about the season is the seasonality of the sport, right? Like you missed a couple races, but I think one of the races was canceled because the weather was bad anyways.
I was there for that race.
Okay.
Yeah, that was in the French Alps.
Yeah.
And I mean, such a cool. That was one of the best things about this sport, is you get to travel to some of the most beautiful, incredible places. It's something that adds so much value to the sport and why it's so incredible. But we get to race in the French Alps, but the weather is just not agreeing and melts half the track, and the race ends up getting canceled. And consolation prize, I got to ski in the French Alps, so it wasn't too bad. Definitely worth it. I was skiing in a t-shirt in the French Alps in January, which is wild. And so that one got canceled. And then there was supposed to be a race in Czech Republic, and it got canceled. And then and then I didn't go to Finland because maybe their last race in Finland, which is somewhere I've been 4 or 5 times now. Incredible place to race. So, but yeah, it's just ever changing, and the dynamics of weather and so many factors. But sometimes you show up to a race and it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's part of it.
Now, when you guys mentioned you had to do like pretty much everything yourself, like the poster yourself.
Right.
What do you got over there? You want to talk about that now, or you want to talk about that
later?
Yeah.
I brought you we got this
is that for me?
Yeah.
What? I thought you were just gonna promo it.
You're gonna promo it.
I'll promo it. Well, this is dope. We left the balloons. He actually brought balloons too.
I thought, whenever you go to a house party or something, you bring a gift.
Thoughtful.
Is that not what people do on podcasts?
He brought leftover balloons from his mom.
Yeah, he brought Mother's Day balloons. It's great.
My mom told me to get rid of them. I didn't steal them from her, for the record. So,
how does it?
Yeah.
You have to put it in a little plastic.
You have to flatten them out.
Yeah.
Look at that guy right there.
There you go.
That's the
shot.
That's pretty sick.
Shot.
So we're going to have the Austin screening of the film on June 9th coming up here in about 3 weeks. And we're going to be giving out those posters, food from Andrea's Eats, all you can drink tequila from El Bandito Yankee. We're going to have a red carpet to walk. It's going to be a full on thing at the Austin Film Society Cinema. So we're going to, do the whole thing there with the red carpet and pictures and eat and drink, and then watch the film, eat some popcorn, enjoy the film. And then after party at WTF with Nether Hour, who's a band, an Austin band, one of our favorites. And they're
Tango Foxtrot.
They're actually featured in the film. One of their songs is featured in the film. So we're going to party with them, and El Bandito Yankee Tequila is sponsoring the whole thing. So I know you'll be there. And
where's the event?
It's going to be at the Austin Film Society Cinema.
Oh, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, it's like 5 minutes up the road.
Right.
Okay.
Like corner of 183 and 35.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's gonna be awesome.
Then what's the game plan after that? So you talk distributors. I don't know what we talk about, etc. But
well, back to the film festival.
Yeah.
So we go to the film festival and we get to see it, and I was sick the whole time.
Oh yeah, that was. Hey, DJ was a trooper. I mean, he was fighting through an illness the entire time, and just couldn't speak. Like his throat was so messed up, he couldn't speak, and he would just sleep the entire time until it was time to go and do something to promote the film or whatever it may be, and then he would just muster up whatever energy he had to go. We were doing interviews, we were doing podcasts, we were doing the screening itself, the red carpet walks, photo shoots, all this stuff, and he is sick as a dog, and just powered through, and didn't really get to. Yeah. I think you still enjoyed yourself. It was pretty surreal experience. But
yeah, no, I mean that's it's what we worked so hard for to kind of get a little bit of validation for all your hard work. So I wasn't gonna miss it for anything. It was just okay. This is where I am. I feel like shit, but this is going to happen. I might not be able to party with everybody else, but I can at least show up for the film and talk about it. But so
you partied the first night.
Yeah, I did party the first night, which is a mistake. It was a mistake.
So real quick on that. So one of the things that actually, I think this is Brittan, probably where one of the things I love about Atomic athlete, great gym, best gym in Austin. I think it's the best gym in Austin.
We got a south location, Atomic Athlete HQ, and a north location over by the Domain, Atomic Outpost.
Yeah. So one of the things I love about
Joel trains there, DJ trains there, I coach there.
Best gym in Austin. We're gonna just get Google best gym in Austin. You'll find it. That's actually kind of true. One of the things I love about Atomic is we talk about fitness, but we talk about mental fitness and the idea that like you're gonna go through it and you just got to do whatever it takes to accomplish whatever task is at hand. And one of the things that I see a lot of, I've seen this a bunch where people like go take on these big challenges that's like, okay, you've never done it before. It seems impossible, whatever. And then they get to a point and they're looking for like an off ramp and stuff always comes up. And then they're like, well, you know, this thing happened. So I just stopped. And what's funny is like, there's always a reason for people to take that. And I see it all the time whenever people take on these like big, crazy challenges. But like one of the things about doing those really hard things is you just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And you have to just go do it anyways. And so like when you're like, you know, the deadline for the film festivals moved up, whatever, you got to fish that. You're like, I'm just going to miss 2 races, I guess, you know,
right.
Like you do that. And then it's
the last month and a half, I didn't work. I wasn't able to make money.
Yeah.
And we had not enough money to pay me.
Yeah.
So it was like, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna have to suck it up and make this happen. Cause we didn't come this far to stop now. It's like you're digging in a cave for diamonds and you can dig and never find them. But if you stop now, you're never going to find them.
Yeah.
That one more hit could be the diamond that you're looking for. And it was like that throughout the whole journey. We're in Finland and we're all on fumes. We're all worn out. We're not making any money. We're just spending a bunch of money. We're like, what are we doing? We haven't seen a product yet.
Yeah.
And and you start waking up early in the morning. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go outside and walk barefooted in the snow. And you're like, why? Why are you doing that to yourself when you should not do that to yourself?
Yeah.
Because I'm mentally preparing my brain for the worst. I'm going to go and I'm going to push these guys to do the same thing because not everything's going to go our way today, but we're going to find a way to get through it regardless. We've made it this far. Let's keep going. So it was like that through the making of the film. It was like that through post-production. And it continued with the film festival. I didn't want it to continue at the film festival.
That was our time to celebrate, but DJ still had to keep powering and pushing through.
Yeah. So it's been that way with our team.
Yeah.
The whole way.
But I mean,
I call it like a mental override, or like you just like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
This is getting done like regardless. And everything, I start like listing out the things that could go wrong and like everything bad that can happen to you. And if you just decide you're going to do it, then it's like you start organizing your mind to actually figure it out and finish it.
Kobe Bryant had a saying where he was like, I've signed that contract with myself. I did it. It's done. I'm going to do this training program that I set out to do. If I have to wake up at 3:00 in the morning every day because I signed that deal with myself, then I'm going to wake up at 3:00 in the morning every day. And that's just what we did. We signed that contract with ourselves and we're going to make this film no matter what. And we did it.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, when it comes to doing hard stuff, I always tell myself, like you have a fucking choice. Like whenever you have that little thing inside your head being like, oh, I don't want to do this hard workout, or I don't want to work this hard today, or I don't want to get into the ice bath, or I don't want to go outside in negative 10 degrees and walk around barefoot just to make myself mentally tougher. And as soon as you have that like little voice saying, don't do it, I just laugh. I laugh at the voice and like you have a fucking choice. Like you don't have an option. You're going to do it.
Yeah.
So no matter how much that inner monologue is telling you to bitch out.
I call it challenge the devil.
Yeah.
Everybody's got that little demon, that little devil in your head saying you can't do it. You're not good enough. You don't deserve this. You're not going to make it. There's no way for you to get through this. And every time I hear that voice, it's like, nah, dude.
Yeah,
not today, homie.
Your inner bitch, as Joe Rogan says, or David Goggins. One of those guys. Goggins, one of those guys, always says your inner bitch. But
I always feel like just Coach Todd, just yelling at you.
Oh, Uncle Todd.
That's valid.
But what was the toughest part of like what the last 18 months of
Oh,
doing
man.
this?
Throughout this journey, that's a great question. It's a tough question because throughout this journey, and we've talked about it several times, we always have moments where we take a step back and kind of appreciate how far we've come and then the next steps to come. But that's what it was the whole time, is just, let's just get to the next step. We see this big mountain in front of us, and you hear that old cliche thing, just take another step up that mountain. But it really was. It's this next step is going to be hard as shit. And there's going to be obstacles along the way, but we got to take this next step today before we can get to the next step after that. Every step was hard as hell because you're so mentally and physically exhausted after 18 months, like you said, of just having to learn new shit every day.
Yeah.
And having to push yourself creatively every day. It really wears you out. But the hardest thing was the shoot. Was 5 weeks of, we're in Quebec in negative 40-degree weather.
Oh, that was insane.
With 40-mile-per-hour winds.
Yeah.
It was absolutely insane. And to see the Lucases and Josh Wiseman and myself out there holding cameras in this weather, and then these guys skating in it,
it was dangerously cold.
Yeah.
Dangerously cold.
Like you walk outside with a warm glass of water, or it's closed up, but as soon as you crack it open, as soon as that air hits it, it freezes. It's instant.
It doesn't even freeze; it turns into vapor at that point.
Yeah.
You see those?
If you throw it up
in hot water.
Yeah.
But yeah, in Quebec, that was probably the toughest challenge for us on the shoot because it was still early on, so we didn't necessarily have our bearings together as far as we're rolling now, everything's good. This was just week number 2, and the weather was not cooperating at all, windy, minus 40, like you said.
And we were adding 2 more people to our crew.
Yeah,
we had
met up with everyone else.
Van, and we had Jack Schramm and Eric come in with us. So it was new obstacles and new weather that we were adding to it. So like you said, we weren't all together at that point. And as a cohesive unit, we were just learning how to be a team.
Yeah.
And now we got this new obstacle of weather that none of us have ever faced.
Yeah.
And we're all going to be outside in it and traveling through it and things like that. So it was tough.
Yeah, it was wild too. Like DJ was talking about, all of them filming. And we would go out there as the athletes and we'd have to be out there for maybe 5 minutes, right? We got there, get ready, rip down the track, and then we would get back into warmness. These guys had to film all of the athletes, so they had to be out there they were kind of cycling in and out of the van for like an hour, to get it all done. And DJ really didn't get to cycle out because he was the one that had to be up at the post and showing what everyone was doing and stuff. So
I made a few trips to the van.
Yeah, just wild though. Yeah. I thought I was going to lose my nose being out there for 5 minutes because you can't feel anything and you got to cover all of your skin in that type of weather. And I did one of my trial runs and I got to the end and got back into like the warmth and I went like this to take the thing off my nose, like the balaclava, and it wasn't on my nose. And I was like, I can't feel my nose. So it had fallen. And so my nose had been exposed the entire time. So I was like, I'm gonna lose my nose.
Yeah.
This is I lost to frostbite. So
they need the fire on the track to keep you warm.
Yeah, they had
that loop.
They had fires, just not close enough to the track.
Yeah, but I had to talk to the officials at the race because I was like, hey, we're filming this documentary. And keep in mind, none of these guys give a shit or know who we are at this point.
Yeah.
But these guys did. They were like, oh, you want to help the sport? Great. And I was like, okay, cool. But I need the van as close as possible to this track.
And no other cars were allowed down there. And the van's parked in the middle of the entire track.
I was like, I have to keep it running. And I have to have a place where my guys can go in for a minute and just get a break from the elements.
But that was consistent throughout day 1 of filming all the way to the end. Everyone wanted to help. Yeah. They did everything in their power to make it as good of an experience because everyone wants to see the sport grow. That's a part of it. And so they saw what we were doing and they wanted to contribute. And honestly, we could not have gotten it done from everyone as far as like the track marshals, to the fans doing stuff for us and helping out, and then obviously everyone that was involved with the production, people like you and our other producers and things like that, and the sport organization itself, Stow and those guys and everything that they did. I
mean, to your point of pushing past your limits and things like that, this sport is a great example of that, because instead of, you hit rock bottom and you can just give up and call it a day. You're not making any money off this sport. You're only losing money off of it. Even the athletes are losing money to travel around, stop working for a month and a half.
How much do you think the typical athlete spends on a season if they go to like a couple, more than 2 races?
Yeah, if you're doing a full season, I projected out before. If you're doing a full season, and this is me staying the whole time. Some people like go to one race and stay there for 3 days and literally just go there to race, and then they fly back home, which I think is actually a little bit cheaper for the most part, because you're not paying for the stay, and then you can actually go home and work and make money and stuff like that. But if you're staying the entire time, it's about 10 to 15 grand. And luckily I have some pretty awesome sponsors that help me pay the way, and because there's not a lot of money in the sport and everything like that, but a lot of these athletes don't, and they're doing it just for the passion and the thrill seeking, that's something that they love, and you get to travel some pretty cool places. But yeah, some athletes are definitely spending a lot of their own money to do it.
It's tougher for them, I think, to get sponsors just based off the areas that they live. He's in Austin. He's been here his whole life. There's great companies around here that he's met through the gym, and his family that he knows, and his ability to network and create those business opportunities. Yeah. He needs to. I told him, like, you need to run a class on how to get sponsors for everybody in ice cross, because even when he was not one of the top athletes in the sport, he was still one of the top sponsored athletes.
Well, the sports too, like, we didn't cover this a little bit, but I would say it's like 60-40 split Europe, US from a race perspective. Like, there's like 2 races in North America,
2 to 3 races in North America,
and then 4 to 5 depending in Europe. And so if you have European athletes, maybe the costs come down a little bit, but there's probably, it seems like, just from my perspective, that European athletes are also less sponsored. So they're just doing a little bit more like, hey, I'm going to go to France for the weekend, and then I'm coming back, and then some of them have good sponsors. I mean, a lot of hockey brands and like Bauer, Red Bull still sponsors some of the athletes, even though Red Bull's not a sponsor of the sport anymore. So some people do. It just, again, it kind of depends on where you're at, skill level, and how much of a following you have, and how you can promote the sport, because there's so much content. I mean, you've been a part of it. So there's so much for a brand or a sponsor to get out of sponsoring an athlete. And if you do it the right way, it can be very beneficial to your brand. So you just have to, align with the right companies and everything like that. And there's a lot of potential. And as the sport continues to grow, and I just talked to Marco Delago, I haven't told you this yet. And next season is looking really promising. We're hoping that the film will be available for streaming kind of right before next season. That's the goal that we would like. And we're supposed to have a pretty big season. We're going to have another championship 500 race. I don't know if I can say where. It's not like official news or anything yet. But over in Europe. So it's looking good for the sport, and we're kind of going back. I feel like we kind of peaked back up from whenever we filmed the documentary. So not this last season, but the season prior. And then last season kind of went down a little bit, didn't have a championship race, and now we're kind of going back up. We're trending in the right direction. So with the momentum from this film and everything, I think things are going to be good. And I'll let DJ touch on that with kind of a question that you had asked, and we'd kind of keep getting sidetracked. But the distribution companies, we've had a few meetings and stuff like that. I don't know like where the film is actually going to be.
Yeah. I'll touch more on the sport as well. What's so impressive to me is athletes continuing to join the sport that don't have sponsors. Like, probably the bottom, I'd say outside of the top 15 athletes, you run into a lot of guys that don't have hardly any sponsors. And we're talking like 200 athletes.
Yeah, 200 other athletes
that are really keeping this sport alive. If it wasn't for these guys losing money and sacrificing to keep it alive, it wouldn't be a sport. Yep. So they're really fighting through these hard times, and everybody's got that feel like it's just a matter of time before somebody gets a hold of it and it pops. You even have that feeling.
Yeah.
And so it's a real testament to just continuing to fight and bouncing back from rock bottom.
So what's the next step with the film then? So we have the release on June 9th?
June 9th.
June 9th. Austin screening here.
And
We still have a bunch of tickets that we're selling for that. So
cool.
Come out and watch it.
So this will be out before that. So
Yeah,
guys,
you
come check
can
it out.
You can look on our Instagram handles.
Yeah.
For the bios
The
on
bios, yeah.
Instagram for a connection to the screening.
And then, are there any other film festivals you're submitting to, or are you guys done with the film festivals?
No, I think we're kind of done. So we submitted. We got a great reaction. From it was kind of cool to see everybody in the theater watching. I mean, watching yourself in a movie theater's a little surreal. So we got that experience, but then the award ceremony comes around, and we didn't think anything of it. Like, this was probably the least dressed up we got the whole time we were there. Actually, he was going to show up in sweats.
I was wearing sweats right before we left, and then my girlfriend Kelly was like, "You can't wear sweats to the award ceremony."
Yeah,
and
for those that don't know, we got nominated.
Brittan's like calculated risk.
Yeah,
calculated risk.
Yeah.
I was wearing these boots. I was wearing Chiso's boots and sweatpants.
Chiso's, shout out Will.
Oh,
Yeah,
Chiso's.
our man Will hooked it up.
Yeah, these are the best. I quit wearing my other boots. I had a pair of boots for 10 years that has not treated me wrong at all. But these boots,
They didn't treat you as right as those.
it didn't treat me as right as these. Like, my feet are my back, honestly. The arches that are built into the boot
And
are
the insoles.
Yeah, the insoles.
This
are
podcast
unreal.
sponsored by Chiso's Boots.
Use promo code impossible.
Actually, use promo code
Actually,
filthy.
Check my link in the bio.
we do a comedy show with Will.
Yeah.
Every quarter or whatever. We have one coming up.
Will
That's gonna be good,
is a great dude, and you always want to support a local company that's doing things the right way.
Yep.
Handcrafted boots, you really can't beat it. It's unreal. And these boots right here, they don't look it, but they're pretty much indestructible.
I mean, yeah, we had these in blizzard weather in Mammoth during the film festival when we were going around and wore them pretty much every day. And we did it up. I mean, people were asking me and Kelly if we hired a what is it called, like a fashion designer,
a stylist.
Yeah.
A stylist. Yeah. People and I was like, no, that was all on our own.
You're like, we're just from Texas.
And if you look at the outfits, you're like, really, you think a stylist would put that together? But
I told Jason them, I was like, hey, I just want you to know, be prepared for what's about to happen. We're bringing Texas to California.
Texas is coming with them. But yeah, so we did it up, and it was an unreal film festival, and we were nominated for a couple of awards, which just to get into the film festival, we were already like, this is crazy. And then to be nominated, we're like, this is wild.
And because to be nominated, you normally had to pay extra money to the film festival for a chance to be nominated. And like, pick the awards that you want to go for, and then we'll watch your film and decide if you actually deserve to be nominated or not. We forgot to do that. I just signed up for the film festival and then didn't sign up for any of the award nominations, and we still got nominated. So I was like, okay, we got something here. And then we get to the award ceremony, and I feel like shit. I think he's hungover from 3 days of drinking, and he was going to wear sweats to it. And then we hear our name called for best sport feature film,
best action sports
film. And we just look at each other like, what? Are we supposed to stand up now?
Yeah, we got up there, and I'm usually I'm pretty decent when I'm speaking in a public setting. Decent, not great. In a public setting in front of a large group of people, whatever it may be, I've never had an issue. But I got up there and I was like, I just was at a complete loss, and he couldn't talk because he was sick and his voice was gone, and so I had the microphone in my hand and I was like,
yeah, I'm just watching it.
I was like, what?
I've literally got my hands on my hips and I'm watching his face, and I was like, oh, he's gone. He's gone.
He's got
nothing.
Yeah, it was a pretty very, very unexpected, shocking thing. And but we got through it, and then
I spoke a little bit.
Yeah.
No, I think we spoke really well up there. And thanked the right people.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many people to thank for it. But then we also won best documentary film, which was, this one was kind of the craziest. There was just to give you an idea, there was another film that was nominated that had an Oscar, Emmy, and Grammy award-winning team that made the film, and we were nominated with them, and then we
Stomped them.
and we also
Chizo's imprint on their forehead.
that Texas imprint right there in the bottom of the. But I honestly thought, I was like, I didn't know how we were going to be received at the film festival, because this is a pretty well-known film festival. A lot of big actors and actresses and directors and producers and films.
It's a tough world to get into.
Yeah, but the thing is, I didn't know how we were going to be received, because we're a couple of guys that have never made a film, have never done anything, and then we come in there and we're wearing these ridiculous outfits, and we're
you're talking
kind
about
of showboating on the red carpet, and we're getting nominated, and then we end up winning. But no, like, could not have been nicer. I feel like Hollywood gets a bad rep when that whole people are stuck up. And the nicest group of people, and we're talking actresses from like Bella Thorne all the way to Urkel. Urkel was there. Steve Urkel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Urkel was there. He has his own strain of weed called Purple Urkel. How dope is that? How dope is that?
Side note. Let's go on a new tangent.
But use promo code.
this podcast brought to you by Purple Urkel.
Purple Urkel.
But this is the nicest community and nicest group of people. Every single one of them. I didn't meet a bad person the entire time we were there, and made us feel super welcomed and gave us praise on what we were doing and everything. So it was really cool to kind of be accepted by the industry a little bit.
And the guy from Drunk History was the main judge, talked to us after we won.
Oh yeah.
And was super supportive, like made several comments about specific scenes that were in the film. He was like, yeah, I watched it multiple times.
Yeah.
And he's like, that guy took you out. Spoiler. No.
He took me out. Yeah.
Brittan falls more than once, don't worry.
Yeah.
As expected.
I mean,
from a guy that goes to Russia during the war.
Yeah, you're pushing it right to the edge, and sometimes you go past the edge.
Life on the edge.
Yeah, and you crash. It happens.
He actually created the title with his crash landing.
Yeah, but yeah. So right now, as far as the next steps, we're in talks with a few different distribution companies. We actually had an offer that we decided not to go with. It was the reason being it was a 9-month contract, and it's weird, and we're still learning these things, and we're leaning on Chase and Michael with Lunar Door, the other production company that's attached to the film, and Tanner with Silver Cell. We're leaning on them a lot with this whole
their
process.
Expertise.
Yeah. And so just with it being such a long contract, we decided not to go. So we're in talks with a couple other ones.
It was an exclusive contract. We weren't going to be able to have talks with anybody else.
Yeah.
So we were, we decided against it.
Okay. Yeah. So we got the screening on the 9th, and then distribution to come.
Yep.
Distribution.
And in the meantime, if we're going to wrap this up, I think, but if you guys, where could they follow along for updates on the film and everything that you guys are doing?
Icecross Life on the Edge.
Yeah.
On Instagram.
Icecross _ Life on the Edge. I don't know if you
used to be Icecross _ Life on Thedge, because some guy from Mississippi made the Instagram account and left out an E.
I did it on purpose.
And then argued to keep it. He's like, we should just keep it. We keep it. I'm like, we can't.
It looks good. It looked clen.
We can't.
Let's just take out all the vowels.
Yeah. It's the way your brain works. Trust me, I'm from Mississippi.
Life on Thedge. Follow us. Life on Thedge.
We have the calculating expert, and we have the spelling expert.
Yes.
Incredible.
A lot of experts on this team over here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then where are you guys at? If people want to follow along with you guys specifically?
Yeah. DJ _ Night and Day. It'll pop up with DJ _ KN. And
not so great _ Brittan.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go. Cool, guys. Well, I'm excited to see it. Well, we're like 2 weeks out from 2 or 3 weeks out from the showing. So
3 weeks, yeah.
Excited to see it. Thanks for coming on. This is super exciting, and I can't wait to see what happens next with Icecross.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Appreciate you having us out.
Yeah. Oh, peace.
Well, I didn't look at the camera.
No. All right. There we go.